let me talk about some of the traits of this TFS syndrome. Because we got to be able to identify. We got to be able to identify the signs and the symptoms so that when you see it, you like, yeah, she need the antidote. One of the main signs of toxic femininity syndrome is this demanding of equality. Demanding of equality. Demanding of equality, but not just that, without recognizing the fundamental differences between men and women. Listen, I don't want to dig ditches. Okay, I'm not built to dig a ditch. Now post childbearing, my shoulders have gotten a little thick, but I don't have the shoulders, the chest, the back strength to dig a ditch. I'm not fighting for equal opportunity in that area. I'm perfectly okay staying in my lane. I don't want to dig a ditch. I don't want to climb a telephone pole. Do they have telephone poles anymore? I don't want to climb an electrical pole. I don't want to work on the power grid. I don't want to work on a railroad. I don't want to be on a construction site. It's funny how we demand equality, but then there's certain aspects of the world where we like, no, but we don't want to be that equal. Well, which one is it? Toxic female? You're demanding equality, but you're not using the good sense that the good Lord gave you to understand that there are fundamental differences between men and women. We don't have the same body strength, our arm spans, our hands, and some of us way more than a man, but that's a different story. That's not biologically natural. That's just this new modern world we live in with this franken food they feeding us and the lack of self-control. The point I'm trying to make is we are different. We are not the same. We should not be demanding a level of equality that exceeds normal, healthy biological parameters. Hyper-independence. That's another symptom of the toxic femininity syndrome. You're too stupid to realize when you actually need some help because you think you got it all under control. You don't need nobody. You can earn your own money, get your own job, buy your own house. But it's amazingly funny. It's amazingly funny. Then when you hear somebody at your door or see somebody in your driveway that you don't recognize, you're not calling the police hoping that Officer Julie shows up. You want Officer Jerome and Officer Tim. That's who you want at the door. But this hyper independence has given us an inflated sense, a false sense of security, not even realizing the level of vulnerability that we're in. We can't even see it when it's right there in front of us. Let's take during the pandemic, for example, when the country shut down and everyone was making mad dashes to the grocery store, trying to get provisions. You know who was not out there? Your girl. No, my husband was like, no, I'm going to go and get us what we need. There were women that I know that was just like, well, I don't have no toilet paper. Like, what am I going to do? And I was like, no, you independent. You got this. Go on and fight these crazy people at the grocery store. And when somebody manhandle you, what you going to do? But the hyper independence, we saw it during the pandemic, where women were falling apart because the reality hit them that I've alienated and excluded all the men in my life who remotely cared about me or who would, at minimum, look out for me. They may not be my man, but they're a man that I know, but I'm so darn toxic, can't nobody tell me nothing, and I'm always, that nobody want to be around me. So now when you're the most vulnerable, when you actually need the protection of a man, there was no man nowhere near to be found. Y'all know I'm right. Y'all know I'm not lying. Overly difficult for no reason or cause. Just wake up difficult. Just as soon as your feet hit the floor, you complaining. You have to overcomplicate everything. A man asks you, do you want peanut butter or do you want jelly? It's like, well, peanut butter, the way the peanuts were churned. I mean, I don't really know if I want like the crunchy peanut butter, or maybe I want the soft peanut butter. But then again, the jelly could work too. But ma'am, it was a simple question. You want peanut butter or you want jelly? Those was the two options. Not almond butter, not cashew butter, peanut butter or jelly. Just being overly difficult, having to overcomplicate a situation to just make it way more harder than it needs to be. That is definitely a trait of today's toxic female. If you're ever in a group of toxic women and you try to talk to them, you just like, oh, wow, like, like you can't even move the conversation forward because there's all these caveats and the margins and the outliers. You're like, ma'am, we just speaking generally. Can you just one of these? We not out here. We know you special and you the exception to the rule, but that's not what we talk about. Overly difficult. Strong feminist leanings. It's girl power this, black girl magic that. And women, we can do anything a man can do. And I don't see no difference between us. And, I don't understand if he can sleep around, why can't I sleep around? Just, you like, The toxicity is overbearing. When a woman believes that she is exactly the same as a man, you need to run. When she's trying to compete with you, for you, not for you, over you, particularly whether that's in a workplace environment, constantly trying to assert her authority over you. That's toxic femininity right there. That that's team too much. When she believes that men and women are the same, and well, I should be paid just as much as him. But when you ask her, okay, we need you to climb that pole. Well, why can't you make a provision, like maybe lower the standard a little bit? Because it's illogical and it's toxic. We saw it happen. No offense to our soldiers that serve. I get it. The military provided opportunities for so many people that they would not have been able to accomplish had they not entered in. But I do believe on some level, women should not be in combat. I don't want women on the front lines. But y'all fighting for so much equality. What happens when it's like, well, now you got to go out there and you need to be on the front line? That's equal. I mean, I don't know if there a movement. Well, I'll tell you this. Because of the females, the toxic femininity, trying to preserve the feelings of a small segment of our population that is confused about their gender, these individuals are now serving in our military. You don't think our military is a little weaker because Fred now thinks he's Frederica? Like, this social experiment, we don't really know what's going to happen. They're in our military now. I remember, I don't know if it was earlier this year or last year, I saw a commercial for the Army that was so syrupy, sweet, sappy. I was like, we're going to get our tails kicked by China. I don't know if y'all see how the Chinese military train. They are building machines over there. I ain't talking about the weaponry. I'm talking about the men. They are building machines over there. And we are over here trying to make provisions for pronouns and assignment surgeries and allowing people who are not quite sure to what they want to be today or tomorrow fight in our military. You don't think toxic femininity has something to do with that, to push and co-sign that? I can guarantee you it wasn't toxic masculinity that affirmed that. It was like, yes, let's do this. Let's make this a thing. Let's let them into the military. Yeah, that's a good idea. That would make a great soldier. That one toxic masculinity that was championing that foolishness. It was weakness. It was toxic femininity and weak masculinity that allowed that to be a thing. You believe that you can compete with a man and be just as good, which tells me that you suffer from some mass delusion. I am reminded every day, I'm a whole grown adult. I have a 15-year-old boy and a 13-year-old boy. Those boys are stronger than me. They're stronger than me at their age now. I realized real quick, I was like, yeah, we're not the same. We are not the same. You believe the toxic feminine, the female that is infected with toxic femininity syndrome believes that alternate family structures are just as viable and is just as good and just as equivalent to a nuclear one. Yes, I would say that is a trait of toxic femininity syndrome. They are the ones that, well, love is love and it really doesn't matter. Like, you can have, two daddies and two mommies, and you should just let them because it'll make them feel bad, not even realizing that this social experiment, we have not begun to see how bad it really is going to be. We probably need another generation behind us to see the outcome of the children that are raised with these alternate family structures, just how much society has been broken down as a result. Willing to have a child on purpose and even planning to have a child on purpose without the father present on purpose, like willingly signing up with willful intent to be a single mother. I'm talking, they froze the eggs, they did everything they needed to do to bring a child in the world, knowing and actually not even wanting the man. If that's not toxic, I don't know what is. Not even requiring marriage as a prerequisite. Have you heard some of these modern women these days? You talk to them and they're like, yeah, I want to be, I want to have a family one day, but it never includes, I want to get married and have a family one day. They're just like, they go into it with the assumption that it's not going to work out and that they're not going to stick around long enough for the man to actually be there. They literally live their lives as if the man is not important and doesn't even matter, but they want that baby. It is the most selfish, toxic foolishness I've ever seen. They do it on purpose. I'm like, you gave no thought or regard. Like, you thought that this was going to work out and that your children were not going to have some sort of deficiency because you chose this life for them. They didn't choose or ask to be here, but you purposely chose this life for them. That's a toxic feminine woman. I don't even like using the word feminine. They don't deserve it. Celebrating single motherhood as a way of life. Hear me clearly. My mama was a single mama. She never celebrated it. She always acknowledged, this is not normal. I am not your father. I want you to have a relationship with your father. My mother never talked down about my father in front of me. Whatever issues that they had within themselves, I was shielded from that, and I was allowed to form my own opinion about my daddy, and I did. God rest his soul, kind of, sort of, because I don't know if he was a believer, but that's not the point. The point is, she never celebrated that. She prepared me and let me know we got some deficiency here, but by God's grace, we're going to get through it and we're going to be okay. But she had no idea of the manifestation of those deficiencies, how that would play out in the fullness of time. But I knew you don't celebrate single motherhood on purpose. That's women who do that. That's one of the symptoms of toxic femininity syndrome. Wanting to be in charge, unwilling to concede. You don't want to play your part, but you prefer to fill the role of the man with an overarching desire to rule over him. That's Eve right there. That is just, that's those E females where it's like, I see them all the time. They come in my establishment. The man, he don't have a voice. He has no say. He has no opinion. They come in with all they toxic, feminine, just they reek. And the man, he got his head down, and he's just trying to live to see another day, because he already knows, I'm not going to win this argument with her. She's not going to let it go. I don't feel like dealing with all of this. So therefore, I just let her be. What I would like to see is more men finally stand up and put their foot down and be like, no, this stops today. I'm tired of you and your toxic femininity syndrome. You need to get it together, because this is unsustainable. Like, I'm going to do my part. For the brothers that's listening to me on this live stream right now, I am vowing to do my part and call out the toxic foolishness when I see it, and to check it in myself if I see it rising up. But we need y'all. We got to work together. I need the men to be like, no, today is the day where we're not doing this no more. And that's actually something that Jason Whitlock mentioned, and I'll get to that. I've got some final points when I wrap this up that he said that I was like, you know what, that's what we need. We needed more men handle, like y'all saw Donald Trump handle Caitlyn. That's what we need. We just need to just tell her what's wrong with her. Now, she ain't gonna like it. She gonna scowl and scrunch up her face. But if she encountered that everywhere she go, I guarantee you she started rethinking her choices. If men stop dating women like that and giving them the time of day and just they invisible. The toxic feminine woman, she's invisible. Don't pay her no mind. Eventually she'll be like, okay, something's wrong. Is it me? Yup, it's you. And then ladies, you start checking these chicks. Listen, I told y'all a couple of weeks ago when I was in the vitamin shop, and those two ladies, the way they treated that police officer, oh, they got checked. I was like, so this is what we doing. This man who is serving and protecting, this is a routine traffic stop. He asked to use the bathroom. You're trying to tell me he can't use the bathroom? I was like, you are something else. I was like, you are something else. I was like, so this is how we're doing. He just can't use the bathroom. I was like, okay. I walked out and I spoke to that cop and I told him, I was like, I am so sorry that you had to experience that. And the sad part about it is, he was like, you know what? I'm used to it. It happens all the time. That is sad. That's madness to me. One, that you would be a female and be that disrespectful to this man who's done nothing to you. You don't know him from Adam. And I need to give y'all a little context. If y'all didn't, maybe it was a week or two ago, I went into the vitamin shop and these hyenas were going off and upset at the police because they pulled over this Black woman who had caused an accident and she was driving under the influence. And instead of them being upset the fact that she caused an accident, could have killed somebody, they were mad because the police held her too long. And that because she had on flip-flops, that was enough. I'm still trying to figure out what the darn flip-flops had to do with anything. I don't know. This is the insanity of these women. They just kept harping on the flip-flops, saying, well, they should just let her go because she's been there too long. And I was like, well, did she break the law? Yeah, but she caused an accident, but it was with a truck that's used to causing accidents. I was like, what? I was like, do you hear yourself? You sound like a fool. Now, I didn't say that in my mind. I'm like playing this over because I'm like, so she hit him, caused the accident. They're giving a sobriety test to make sure that if she is indeed intoxicated, that she don't hurt someone else. And you're mad at the police officer? I was like, yeah, it's time for me to go. But yes, ladies, when you see the toxic femininity syndrome on display, as much as it can depend on you. Now, some of these hyenas crazy. It might land you in a fight. So be careful. Stay strapped. Jesus in your heart, not on your hip. But you got to start checking these nuts. It is unacceptable. I can't live in the world where this is the status quo. I'm sorry. Call me old school. Call me old. I'm fine. I embrace old. I'm middle age. I don't want to live in a world with all this toxic femininity syndrome. I don't. I want manly men who step into their role and say, no, we are protecting you. We're protecting y'all. We're protecting us. I want that. I got a few more traits of TFS. Yes, it's deep. The desire to conduct and explore sexual mores just like a man. That's toxic. And this is one that I can speak to because I grew up and came of age on the tail end of the Freaknik era, right? Where it started to become socially acceptable for women to have a high body count just like guys. And hear me clearly, I am coming from a distinctively biblical worldview. So neither one of us should have a high body count. Let's just be clear. The Bible is clear on that. My stance on that is what the Bible teaches. But when I'm talking about the culture at large, there are females that have a higher body count than some men. All you got to do is go to your local middle school, and that the reality of that will bear out. It is not the young middle school boys that's just trying, it's these girls. And who raised these hyenas in training? Women who suffer from toxic femininity syndrome. Women like Jada Pinkett's mama and grandmama who taught her how to explore special places on her own. That's toxic. That's abusive. That is wicked. One of the traits of the toxic feminine syndrome is the idea that there's nothing wrong with a woman running the streets and fighting it up, because if men can do it, why can't we? Because you're not built like that. Your body is not equipped to handle all that incoming traffic, if you know what I mean. Not from a physical perspective or a spiritual one. Don't think that you are not going to deal with problems. Lord, if by God's grace, somebody does want to settle down with you after all that mileage, don't think that you are not going to have imprints in your mind from all of that extracurricular activity that is going to cloud your ability to connect in a meaningful way with your one flesh partner. Why can't we make it popular again to be like, no, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait because this ain't the life. I don't want that life. So yes, sexual promiscuity. It's on the list. It's on the list. And when we see that celebrated in the culture, we need to speak up against it and be like, this is not okay. I don't know when it became okay for us to twerk in restaurants. I don't know when that became a thing, but we need to make that shameful. When we see that, we shouldn't be like, hey, yeah, no. We need to be like, you nasty. You need to go sit down somewhere. You are embarrassing all of us. On behalf of the female delegation of the United States of America, you, sister girlfriend, are embarrassing us. Can you please pull your skirt down and go sit down somewhere and get off the table? If there was just one woman who was brave to say something, it might catch on. Or better yet, if men stop giving those types of women attention, because they get some attention, you need to just be repulsed. Just be like, oh, you all kinds of stink. Nope. Just, they're invisible. If they become invisible, Eventually, Mary McLeod Bethune said it perfectly. She was like, it's going to take some time, but eventually you will reshape the culture, which in turn reshapes the society. But our women, we got to get it together. This toxic femininity is not going to land us in a good place. It is leading us into a perpetual state of just being unsafe and unprotected. So much so that we have sex trafficking that's just running wild and free. And at this point, it's so common when you see it, you're just like, oh, well, she's probably being sex trafficked. It's no big deal. Like there's no one coming to our rescue. And it's like we are destroying the fabric of our society we're tearing it down, ladies, with our own hands. We are tearing this down. Us. Unteachable does not listen. Nobody can just sit you down and say, hey, let me show you something. Why? Because when you come with an attitude of, well, I already know, and there's nothing you can tell me, and there's nothing you can teach me, that's toxic. Why? Because we're all growing. We're all learning. We're all evolving. A little humility, just being a little humble and recognizing that you don't know everything. And if you do, you can stand to learn a little bit more. That's okay. That's how we grow. But you can't grow if you are unteachable. Men don't want unteachable women. It's a headache. They're like, it's too hard. Especially if y'all, by the time you my age, if you haven't exercised your teachable muscles, where, for example, my husband met me, I was 25, we got married, I was 27. I was still in that moldable, teachable range where I was open to the possibility of learning new things. I was like, well, I never knew that. You taught me something new. Thank you. It trained me. So even now at 44, I'm still teachable. There's so much that I still have yet to learn, not just about life, but just in general. And being under my husband's tutelage, I love learning from him. It makes me a better wife. It makes me a better mom. It just makes me a better person. But you have to be malleable. You gotta be teachable. You can't constantly always resist and rebel authority. Because eventually when you need some authority, someone to enact some sort of order, it's not going to be there. It's not going to be there. And I am not advocating and saying that all women need to submit to all men. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we are going to have to get to a point where we change our disposition and how we interact and engage in the world in general with the opposite sex. Meaning, I don't care if it's the homeless man on the street or the guy that's changing your oil or the guy that's bagging your groceries. Show the man some respect. Practice it. Make it a part of your everyday life. Be courteous. Be kind. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Have a wonderful day. Just make it a part of your everyday vernacular. It will change your life. And you will find that there will be complete strangers out there in the world that will jump in front of a moving car to push you out the way because men are trained to protect. But if they feel that they got to compete with you and it's always a one-up, when that truck comes and they see it headed towards you, they're going to be like, I hope you're fast. Hope them reflexes quick. I'm not jumping to push you out of nothing. Absolutely not. Because that'd be the same woman to be like, he touched me. he touched me. And the man is like, the truck was about to hit you. I'm pushing you out the way to save your life. But that's what toxic females do. They will manipulate and they will flip it. And they will turn a situation where a man is innocently either trying to protect them or shield them from something and turn it into now it's some sort of assault. Women are crazy. Toxic femininity syndrome makes a series of poor choices over and over again. And this symptom is a result because you're unteachable and don't want to listen to nobody. So you just keep doing dumb stuff over and over again, beating your head up against the wall. You bleeding, the head is bust to the white meat. And people, particularly men, are trying to come along and tell you, and you like, don't want to listen. Yep. All those bad choices. And then when the bad choices start catching up with you, now here's the other symptom. Can't be held accountable. Now it ain't your fault. It's not your fault. It's everybody else's fault. You are the eternal victim. That is toxic. Toxic females stay the perpetual victim, and they will make every excuse in the world other than own up to the fact that I'm screwing up. I'm screwing up. I'm not making good choices. I'm doing everything that is the opposite of what I should be doing. I need to retreat, fall back, and regroup. Nope, toxic females don't do that. They don't listen. So they make a series of bad choices over and over again, and then has the nerve to have an opinion about everything. Oh, you talk about opinions about it. Now hear me clearly. If you know me and you engage with me in real life, you'll be like, yes, April, indeed, she is full of opinions. Full of opinions. Because I think and I observe the world, and I just have opinions about a myriad of topics. Some related to each other, some not. But there's a difference between having an opinion about everything and trying to assert your opinion about everything onto everybody else. Those are two completely different things. Having an opinion is not bad. We need to be thinking people. God wants us to use our brain and fully engage our brain in the decision-making process, in the discernment process. There's so many areas of life where we have to use our brains and formulate an opinion. That is a good thing. What I am talking about with the TFS syndrome, these women, half the time their opinions just be as wrong as two left shoes. They're rarely rooted in reality. Rarely rooted. It's always in some out there fantasy delusional world, right? That's where their opinions fly up in that stratosphere. Not rooted in reality, rarely based on fact, but because there's such an imbalance in their life with no men that love them, respect them, and that are covering them, they haven't learned how to think through things and to reason well. So what they do is everything is based on how I feel, regardless if it don't make no sense. That's toxic femininity syndrome. When you have the opinion about everything, but you refuse to leave room for the fact that you could be wrong, right? No, it's not possible. No, I'm never wrong. I'm not wrong. I am right about this, and this is how it is. And everything around you, evidence is pointing to the fact that you're wrong, but because you're arrogant, and you lack humility, you're not going to accept new information. So you will die on the hill of the incessant need to be right, even in the face of observable reality, right? We won't accept the fact like, yes, I'm 20 pounds overweight. I'm going to own that. I'm 20 pounds overweight and I need to lose some. No, I'm 20 pounds overweight, but I wear it well. I can hide it. I'm just big bone. Ma'am. You're 20 pounds overweight. You're going to need to lose these 20 pounds to be healthy. But I feel fine. Like I feel okay. I'm okay. I'm not gonna argue with you. It's like, what's the point? Strong. I may have talked about this. Oh, yes. This one, there are two facets of this one. How are we on time? Okay, I'm doing good. Oh, hey, Kim. Thank you so much for that super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, hey, Henry, thank you for your super chat. Good to see you, right? Yes, we're seeing. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for supporting this show. I apologize if I've missed some of those. Yes. All right. Where was I? All right. This is the one where I said there are two aspects of this. It's the strong promotion of girl power, right? So you have the strong promotion of girl power, but then in the Black ethnic culture, it's the Black girl magic. It's the Black girl power and the Black girl magic, right? So, we have a general overarching overemphasis on girl power, and then it's the Black girl magic. Now, I'm waiting for someone to define what all this magic and power does, because typically people who are powerful, they don't have to constantly remind you that they are. So I'm curious to know if the Black girl magic and the Black girl power, is it just a reminder for y'all, or are you trying to convince the rest of us? Because I'm not sure. So I was just wondering. But yeah, that's a sign when she's always advocating that foolishness. Yes, she's on the spectrum. She's definitely on the spectrum with toxic femininity syndrome. People who have power or feel empowered don't have to always remind you and tell you that. So I don't know if they're just doing it or saying it to convince themselves. Because in my opinion, it's really a false sense of power. Because this Black girl magic and Black girl power, it doesn't ever seem to yield them the results that they want, but they are constantly on a pursuit of it, right? And it's like their little echo chamber amongst themselves, kind of like the cackling hens on The View, right? They got their little girl power triage. I call it a coven, kind of like, like the witch's cup. That's what I call them. If you want to see toxic femininity on full display, I don't advise this. You might need to take your antidote before you watch this. Is you're gonna have to read some scripture, because if you watch that show and you ain't got the full armor of God on, you might bust up your own TV, and I don't want that to happen. But if you watch The View is an example of toxic femininity syndrome. Them cackling hens, Lord have mercy. I don't know. I can't even tell you which one to watch. Just any episode. It doesn't matter. Just pick one. And then you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's toxic. That is toxic femininity syndrome. Okay, here we go. There are the last ones on my list. I'm trying to see. We talked a little bit about the alternate reality and living in your own delusion. We talked a little about that. But what this alternate reality and the delusion of mind leads to, it causes these women with this syndrome to be insufferable to be around, right? So typically they travel in packs, right? It's usually a whole crew of them. It is very rare that you'll have a circle of friends where it's just one that's the top that has TFS, right? Like in my circle of friends, like we keep the TFS chicks, we keep them, I keep them way over there. Just because they stay far. But typically they travel in packs, but they are insufferable to be around. They're the ones, and when you go out to a restaurant and you're the server, you're like, oh, do I have to? Oh, please don't sit them in my section, please. Because it's insufferable. There's a level of satisfaction that you're never going to be able to achieve with them, because they're never satisfied. Nothing ever makes them happy. I don't know. I think because we've emboldened this segment of the population as to why we see it so much, but we keep bowing to them. And what it does is it's like you're kind of feeding the monster. You got to starve. You got to starve this one out. Here's where we are. We can no longer participate in our own demise, ladies. We need our men And I know a lot of us may not be used to seeing a man step out in his rightful role and take his place. And for some of us, it is going to hurt just a little bit. But I can assure you, in order for us to course correct and change the course that we're on, we're going to have to be a little bit uncomfortable. And it's got to start with us. So, for example, what I do to combat TFS syndrome when I see it, I make sure, now I do it from the heart, but I'm doing it for the culture, right? I make sure when I'm out in public that I am always engaging with my husband in a respectful and pleasing manner. Why? Because I want the chicks that are infested with TFS, I want them to see there's something different. The way they engage, the way she defers to him, the way, like, if my husband has to tell me no, like, I'm not arguing with him in public. We're not going to do that. I'm not saying I have not done that where I'm pushing back. Like, I think I did that in a Publix once, and he was so mad at me. I didn't realize that I had relapse, right? I had relapse and I had a moment of TFS come out, but he didn't just allow it to go unchecked. He let me know what you did. That was wrong. That was disrespectful. And I felt bad. I was like, I owe him an apology because it was just inappropriate. Even if I disagreed, there is a manner and way in which you can disagree. But ladies, we're not emasculating men. We're not doing that. When you are on the path of trying to heal from TFS, the way you do it is you practice it in your everyday life, whether you have a man that's in close proximity to you or not. It could be a brother, it could be a co-worker. Start changing how you engage with the male species. Just offering a level of respect on the basis of the fact that they're just men, right? Because I believe, because it's so much toxic femininity in the culture, if we counteract it with the opposite, what will eventually happen is that men will start to pick up and see, and they will become empowered to say, you know what? Now, some men, y'all gonna just have to count the cost. Like Trump counted the cost last night when he told Caitlyn, "You are a nasty." He said, "You are a nasty person." She needed to hear that. America needed to hear that. Now, there's some women who suffer from TFS themselves that made them feel some sort of kind of way, but that gave me life. That gave me life because she was getting on my nerves that whole time in that town hall. That when he said that, I was doing a standing ovation. We was out on the deck. Me and my husband were watching it, and I was screaming. I was like, yes, put her in her place. Make her sit down somewhere. She was just getting on my nerves. But that is part of the antidote. The more of us that we counteract the toxic feminine syndrome, like those symptoms, I think we can course correct. But particularly for Christian women, I believe that when Christian women endeavor to live out their faith in all aspects of their life, everywhere they go, we are a light in dark places. And you know what's sad? The sad part about it is so many of our churches are toxic because there's an infestation of women with TFS, right? They actively rebel against their husbands. They don't want to submit. They want to just be in charge and just run everything. If you get a remnant of women, like, for example, at our church, we do church a little different, but we purposely defer to the men. And the men are leading, and they do pretty much everything. But I like it because it is a weekly reminder to me that you need to fall back, little red Corvette. You need to let these men handle it. Let the men lead. And even in environments where you're like, well, we've never done it that way before. That's okay. It's the biblical prescription. The men will get used to it. And the more they do it, the more they will show up, and they will do it more and more. And it'll change the trajectory of our families. Because y'all know, I believe that healthy families create healthy societies. And if our nation doesn't start repairing the family by women recognizing that we are out of order, we are out of place, we are toxic, and the matriarchy has to sit down. If we don't start recognizing that, we're gonna destroy ourselves from within. Final points. The Black community in particular, our toxic femininity syndrome is probably the worst. And it's so bad that the establishment is using the Black female, giving her a false sense of power in order to destroy our communities from the inside. How do we know this? All you got to do is look at Exhibit A, Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams was the archetype of the woman with TFS. And Stacey would crawl back into the hole from which she came. She wouldn't have the power and support if it wasn't for other women that are suffering from TFS supporting her, and then the weak men who follow behind them. But I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the remnant of Black men who were like, nope, not going to be able to do it. I am not voting for her. This ain't what I want. She is not good for the culture. If we had more of the women who recognize the toxic femininity syndrome that she possesses, and we started to course correct, she wouldn't keep coming back to Georgia trying to run and trying to win. She would have gotten the hint. She would have. But we're in a battle. We're in a war, and we're being destroyed from the inside because too many of our women are suffering with toxic femininity syndrome. I don't feel safe. Well, let me qualify that. With my husband being alive and being the head of our family, I absolutely feel safe. But when I say I don't feel safe, I am talking about as a female, as a woman in this country in general. My husband is not able to be 24/7 the eye in the sky hawk protecting his family all the time. I have to live in the world. I have to go out. But knowing the environment in which we live, in the level of crime, toxic females raise these miscreants that are terrorizing our communities. Most of them. Y'all know I talk in blanket statements. There are isolated ones, but in mass, TFS is who raised the ones that are terrorizing our community. I don't feel safe. There are men, good, strong, manly men, such as your Jason Whitlocks, such as your Tucker Carlsons. Hey, y'all can even throw Elon Musk in there. There are these men that are willing to count the cost and, like Jason Whitlock said, take the bullet. They are willing to risk it all for the sake of combating this toxic femininity syndrome and standing up as men and taking their rightful place. And I'm so grateful for them. And I am mentally preparing myself to be strong in my own right. If in the event, all of the men who are putting themselves on the line to say, you're not coming for these kids. You're not coming for the babies. No, we're not going to just hand this country over to you because of your wicked agenda. The matriarchy will not win. I'm prepared. We have to arm ourselves with the armor of God, training and discipling our children and raising them in the fear and admonition of the Lord, because the men that are laying it out all on the line and sacrificing it all, if, Lord forbid, something happens to them, we've got to remember all that our men tried to teach us and instill in them, in us, in their absence. I am mentally preparing myself for that. I know my husband is going to hold the line. And I know he is not going to stand down and watch this country burn up in smoke because of the matriarchy. That's why he's raising those two boys. And those two boys, they not having it either. 13 and 15. And they show more testicular fortitude than most men 3 times their age. That's what we need. We need strong families. We need solid nuclear families. And we need those of us who come from alternate families to support the idea that we need strong families. And we need our men to step in their rightful place to beat down the hatches and to tell the toxic females, no, we're not going in this direction. We're not taking it anymore.